I'm just a fan, and these are my 10 minutes for Coco. Now, if you don't know how this works, it's pretty simple. I'm just going to watch a movie that I've never seen before in my entire life. It could be an older movie or a newer movie, in this case Coco, of course, and then I get 10 minutes to talk about it and no more. If I really need more time at that point, I'll figure something out, but usually I can stay within those 10 minutes, usually. And I'm really excited about this one. Pretty much everyone I've talked to about Coco, they say, I've saw Coco, or I love Coco, or haven't you seen Coco? It was a pretty big response for people that I talked to, so I'm expecting good things out of this, and of course I am because of Pixar. Just one more thing before I get started, though, is that this has to be with spoilers, because I can't do a non-spoiler discussion within 10 minutes. It's just not really going to work. So expect spoilers for the whole thing here, and the next thing you're going to see is me actually literally finishing the movie. So here we go. Alright, so we're going to start our 10 minutes right now. It's going to get the timer set. Boom. It's set on siren mode because that's the most stressful alarm. How about that? Here we go. 10 minutes on Coco. Let's go. That was great. That was, just as good as I was expecting. And, it's fun because I'm a German person. I know the German language, pretty good German culture tradition, nothing about Spanish at all. And so one thing I appreciate this movie does, it has some Spanish words, it has some Spanish tradition and customs, of course, and just kind of expectations, style. It was cool because it didn't go overboard and say, this is Spanish stuff. It was like, this is just, the story and taking place in a Spanish-speaking country, which is weird because they were speaking English. But I just appreciate how it's, slightly educational and puts you right in the theme in a great way where someone like me who has no idea how Spanish works can get a good glimpse and a good feeling of how it really all does work. And I didn't even know much about the Day of the Dead, holiday anyway. Of course, we call it Day of the Dead in the United States. And so it was also cool to see, how does that work? What's the idea behind it? What are the values people have for that? How does it make people feel? And especially in this movie, it did a great job with that kind of thing. So kudos to this movie for being cultural and linguistical, and kudos for having good plot twists. I can get to those a little bit later. It was just quite good. It was interesting because it started kind of weak to me, just because of the fact that there was obviously this conflict this family has with music, right? Pretty much everyone, the cousins, the aunt, the uncle, the parents, the grandparents, no matter who you are, it was like music is not allowed here, to the point of if someone mentions it or starts to sing or whatever, it's like, no, you have to stop immediately, and it's like, okay, so it's a little forced, but then the issue I guess I have is that Miguel, he didn't really have any other kind of big connection to his family. He was so shut off by them, and so, they were so closed-minded and not flexible for what he really wanted to do. And of course he's different, which is fine because music's a natural thing to like anyway. I mean, I guess think about like the Lord of the Rings, like Frodo. He loved Bilbo, he loved the Shire, he loved his friends and what they did and all that stuff. And so him setting off on this huge journey was difficult. There's like inner conflict of like, I don't really want to have to leave everything I like here, but I gotta do it. And it wasn't really like that. I was like, dude, Miguel, your family seems horrible. Like, get away from them. Of course you should, go play in the plaza and ignore what they want. You should definitely try to do what you want to do and, follow your dreams, because they're not listening. They're not being open-minded. Who cares about them, right? So it's kind of like this, of course you would go do that, rather than like this a little bit stronger character thing where it could have been like, well, my dad listens to me and, on the sideline he says, you know what, you should go for it. I'll cover for you or something. There could have been a little bit of connection there, just because if there's so little value for his family to the viewer anyway, then, why not go on this big awesome journey? But it was a big awesome journey. It was great. I love the things that happen. I love the visuals are great in this movie. And of course, when you're Pixar or Disney or whoever, designed this whole thing, and you have to think, we have to make a land of the dead, right? Where, dead people are. They're skeletons now. How do you do that? What should it look like? And it was great. I mean, colors in the, the living world were still great, good theme, good setup. And then you go there and it just was awesome. It was kind of not exactly what you would expect, because what would you expect for the Land of the Dead? But for the Land of the Dead, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, great. This is awesome. Great setup. Good colors there too. Good design of everything. Good design of the people. So I really liked how it looked. And, you know, when you have skeletons and they're doing things, they can do skeleton stuff. And this can lead to some pretty stupid or lame, you know, slapstick humor. There was a little bit of that, but not too bad. It was actually quite respectable in what they tried to do with the skeleton characters. Like, you know, they're walking from here to there, and they get bumped, or they want to get there faster, or they use their body, their bones somehow to do something. It was actually pretty clever for a lot of scenes, and, you know, it was just good. Like, it was like, wow, this is actually respectably done, what it could have been done very badly in some cases. Story twists were great. I mean, thinking about the fact that, we have this. Well, I was kind of confused at the beginning, though. In the opening narration, they're talking about how there was this grand grand musician, and he was great at it, and everyone liked to hear it, and he wanted to go tour the world and play music. And so then they got to Miguel, and they were talking about how there was this grand musician there, and they didn't establish. It was like they had to establish that it was his great great grandfather. But I was like, oh, they were someone different. It was kind of weird because when they talked about the grand musician in the narration, and then they talked about there's a statue of a guy here, and then he had a great great grandfather that nobody he took away his picture. I was like, wait, that's the same guy, right? But then it wasn't. I guess they had to make that clear, even though I thought it was clear anyway. So I got a little confused there about like why they did it the way they did at the beginning. Again, the beginning was just kind of weak for me for some reason, and it was awesome how there was this nice twist where when he finally gets to meet him, and that's good structurally. You have this grand idea of I can go back whenever I want according to my great great grandmother, but she doesn't want me to go back without the with the blessing of being able to play music. And so I like how they did that. I like how they sent him back for a second just to show, yeah, this is how it works. This is how easy and simple it is to get back technically, but it's this important for the character as a good character moment, or for a good character arc really, to have to get to his great great grandfather, or who he thought was his great great grandfather. So good, excellent. I kind of wish so he finally meets I forgot his name, Ernesto de la something, when he meets who he thinks is his great great grandfather. It's actually really cool because I kind of knew he was going to let him down, right? Because there's a lot of movie left on the Netflix counter there, and I was like, well, there's got to be something else to this, and so it's probably likely for a story that when he does meet the great great grandfather, he's going to let him down and disappoint him somehow. And for a while it didn't. For a while it was really cool how he responded nicely to be like, wait, I have a great great grandson, awesome, and he was nice to him, and he sang with him and stuff like that. It was really fun to see that little montage of good happy moments. But then of course when he's actually like, oh, maybe we should send you back, he tries to send him back, and we don't get to see that moment actually not work. I was kind of hoping that he would try to send him back, and then they were like, wait, it doesn't work, and then they could get interrupted by Hector, who is the real great great grandfather. But they didn't even get to that moment where we realize like, wait, something's wrong here. And I guess it could have, it just could have worked in terms of it plants that seed into the viewer's mind of, wait, maybe he's not the great great grandfather, because only a few minutes later we find out that he's not the great great grandfather anyway. So why couldn't they have kind of just let that scene play out just 10 more seconds, really, just so we could see them get really excited and then be disappointed or confused? Just those extra little emotions in the characters could have been pretty useful and more powerful for the scene. It was still good though. I love the concept of, Hector, the guy who was kind of helping him the whole time, was the great-great-grandfather, and he was generally respectable, even though he was thinking for himself, but it was fair for what he was trying to do. He wants to see his daughter again, he wants to go back, he doesn't want to be forgotten. It had good, fair motivation for the character, and he genuinely was trying to help Miguel out. And it was cool because, you have your story, you have your journey, your hero who goes on the journey, you're the protagonist who goes on the journey, with character stuff happening and your character arc that ends up happening, and they have their supportive cast, right? And it's really cool. I love how there's this concept you can gain out of the movie. They don't say this explicitly, but there's the concept of he didn't really need the guy he thought who was his great great grandfather. He only really needed the guy who was with him the whole time anyway. It's like this underlying theme of, you're looking ahead, you're looking for this goal over here, but don't forget the extreme importance in this case of who's right next to you the whole time anyway. It's really cool. I like thinking about it like that. Like they're trying to show us that he didn't really need this ultimate powerful figure. All he needed was the guy who was trying to help him out anyway. So that was cool. Again, good visuals near the end there. I was just watching this part. I like how the spirits. It's 1 year later, where it's the Day of the Dead again, and the spirits have come back and they're hanging out with Miguel's family and such. I like how Miguel's playing the guitar, and then Hector comes over and kind of grabs the space where the guitar would be in the death spiritual world, and he's able to grab a guitar too. Like, it's just like a neat little moment of like, yeah, this is a thing you and I both care about, and it's just a thing we do. I like the visual. I mean, it was kind of weird having those animals be in the movie. I didn't know about that in terms of Spanish culture, that there were like, big spirit guiding animals, or small ones too. I never heard of that, but it was cool near the end when they have the cat, who, they have Dante, who was in the real world, but then in the spirit world, and then comes back in the real world, and then you have the big cat monster thing. Not that it was really a monster. It was kind of lame because it was big and scary when it needed to be, but it was nice and fluffy and cute when it didn't need to be for the convenience of the plot. But anyway, it was cool how they had, the dog come out of the alleyway, and the cat was following, and the cat had a nice big shadow, but then it just turned out to be the cat, right? But we know who it really was, or what it really is, in terms of, it's a spirit guide. So just cool, neat little visual things like that worked and were relevant, and, helped add to the story and the setting. So it's good. It's quite good. Anything else to add to this movie that I could say? I don't know how much time is left. I like it a lot. Story, good stuff, good arc of characters, good emotion in some cases. It was kind of, it was nice and sad that the great grandmother, or I guess it'd be a grandmother, whoever, Miguel, his older woman who died. It was kind of sad that it was nice that we got to see him sing to her or whatever at the end of the movie. Only, and then she remembers her dad, who's the one, Hector, who would want to bring him back, kind of thing, make sure he's not forgotten. And then they show the year later where it ends up that she's on the ofrenda now and she's dead, which it was kind of cool seeing that kind of get fully fleshed out, and they're like, yeah, we're not forgetting about her. And then we get to see her in the spirit world as a skeleton, be with her dad again. Like, that was really neat and cute, so I liked that part too. It was annoying at the end though, because when he finally gets back to the real world and he has to like bust into her room and she's sitting in her wheelchair and he's like, remember your dad, and I was like, dude, sing the song, that's all you need to do. It's very obvious, just sing the song and you're good to go. But they had like 2 minutes of his family being like, what are you doing? Stop messing with her. And 2 minutes of him just asking her to remember, rather than, of course, just play the song. So I thought it was obvious what to do there. It just got dragged out a little bit longer than it needed to. And it was good. I mean, yeah, that's what they should have done for the story anyways, have him play the song, which was cool. I liked how they, the dad, Hector, and his daughter, Coco, had a song to play and a song they sang kind of thing. It was just neat. I like how they had their thing. Also, the fact that the movie's named Coco, it's kind of cool because you don't even realize how important of a character she is until pretty much near the end, when at least there's the reveal that Coco is the daughter of Hector, who's, the grandmother or great-grandmother of Miguel. And so when we kind of see that connection, it's like, oh, cool. And it's called, but even then, it's like, why is it called Coco? Because she's kind of the key, right? She's the key to connecting all these things together and kind of getting Hector back into I wasn't going to say the land of the living, but just in terms of being remembered, getting him back into the good graces of his ex-wife and of the family who, disowned him for being a music lover type of thing. So it was cool. I like how they have a name of the movie that's not just an obvious thing, And it's fine if movies do that, like Lord of the Rings. There's a Lord of the Rings, and that's fair. But in this case, it's a little more subtle and a little bit more of a mystery of why is it called Coco and why is that so important. And it turns out to be very important for the characters themselves, not even necessarily for the viewer, but it is for the viewer watching the characters react to these things. And that's one of the good parts about the movie, watching Miguel react to things, watching Hector react to things. They have discernible characters that we can tell that's their motivation, that's what they're going for, that's what they want to do, this is why they're working together, and boom, it's great. So yeah, I like that. It's a lot of good stuff in there. It's simple enough where we can easily follow it. I was just talking about character motivations and what they're trying to do. That's one thing I really respect about this movie. It's a great full-length movie where we know exactly what they're trying to do at any given point. There's no confusion of like, wait, so how does he gain anything from doing this or that? And it does get drawn out a little bit, like when they needed to get a guitar. I feel like that scene was a little bit unnecessary because they have to go to this place where there's spirits of people who are almost forgotten, or no one puts up pictures on the ofrenda anymore. Ofrenda, I forgot what it was. But, they have to get the guitar for that one guy who, like, hates Hector, and it's like, this bigger, longer scene that seems to mean something, but it doesn't really mean a lot for the viewer, especially because it's like we don't really know any of these characters. They're obviously important to Hector, but he's hardly important to us at that point, other than he's just trying to help Miguel. So I don't really know. That scene was a little bit weird, and there's a couple of dragged on scenes where it's like all these details necessary. Can't Hector just be like, oh yeah, I got it to car, let me go find it. He's like, throwing his crap out of this trunk. It's like, oh, I found it, and it's kind of like broken. They have to maybe fix it or something. Just other things could have worked where they had more interaction with Hector and Miguel, but sure, that works too. What's left? How much time do I have? I don't know. I never know how much time I have. I gotta get a timer in here. Music was great. Oh gosh, that's another thing. The music was quite good. I love the music at the end there. It's just great. I like Miguel's singing voice. I like it was interesting though, because at the very beginning of the movie, there obviously the viewer gets the idea that he likes music or whatever. He wants to sing, he wants to be a musician. Great, but we never even saw any of that until he actually performed, I think, in the Land of the Dead. And I wish we saw a little bit of that early on in the movie. Clearly he's been practicing or trying to practice up in that attic where, no one else is around or even knows about it. He's watching old videos of Ernesto. And so I was like, can't they show him practicing or just showing that he does know what to do? Not that I doubted that he was a musician anyway throughout the movie, but we didn't see any of that. He was like, I need to perform and do this, and I was like, great, but can he? And they had that kind of useless scene where he's really nervous for 10 seconds, and then he's like, oh, I'm not nervous anymore. It was like, well, that didn't really add to anything. So they needed just a tad more of that. Not a lot, but just a little more near the beginning, and maybe one more scene throughout the movie where it's him actually proving to himself and proving to the viewer, essentially, that, yeah, he's already a great musician. We just didn't know that at all. We just were told so and had to assume so, and that was fair, but it just was a little bit weaker than it could have been. So there's that, but still good, and that's actually another thing, that's what I was thinking with music. I like the music a lot in this movie, so I was hoping for more. I was like, hey, play some songs, these are great. I love the way it sounds. I love the way they use the music to go along with the scene and the visuals really well, so why not add some more music in there? Because if it's a movie about music and our main character is a young boy who likes to play guitar, show us a little bit more of that, because it's worth it for sure. Yeah. What else is there about this movie? I don't know how long. Gosh, this must be, time's almost up, I swear. It was kind of interesting how easily, I guess I would say, how easily the family, the family history, all the ancestors just completely disown the idea of music and anyone in the family who wants to be a part of that. They kind of went back and forth a little bit more easily than I would think they would, especially if it's ingrained in their entire existence that music is such a horrible thing, and we can't have that around here. So I was kind of surprised that his great-great-grandmother was she's chasing him around, and he goes through that gate, and she can't follow him, and so he's like, you'll never understand, and she starts singing, and it's like, oh, so you appreciate music, but you don't let anyone else know that, or don't? It was just kind of weird. It was so easily back and forth, just for the convenience of, well, this adds some drama, or this adds some character. It was kind of forced, but not too bad. But near the end of the movie, too, he's trying to go back to his great-grandmother, whoever's still alive in the wheelchair, and they're all like, don't do that to her, you apologize to her right now. I'm like, apologize for being nice to her and trying to get her to remember her dad? Come on, people. And then 30 seconds later, after he sings a song, it's like, that was so heartwarming and amazing, and every bit of annoyance and madness I had before this is totally gone. I was like, wow, that was a very easily swayed family, but whatever. Okay, embarrassing moment time. My camera timer was way above 10 minutes, and I was like, there's no way it hasn't been 10 minutes yet. So I looked at the phone, and lo and behold, I forgot to turn on the sound. So the alarm did go off, but I just totally didn't hear it. So I apologize for breaking the rules of only 10 minutes, but I still got to see Coco. I think I pretty much covered everything I would want to say about it for now, and it was great. I really liked it. I hope that if anybody else out there hasn't seen it, they would see it, even if you don't know anything about Spanish language or culture. I didn't, and I loved the movie. It was awesome, and I really want to look up the soundtrack and find some, some favorite songs to add to my list of enjoyable Pixar Disney songs that I listen to every so often. Great stuff. I really agree with everyone out there who told me they love it, because I love it too. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you would enjoy this edition of I get 10 minutes or whatever, however many minutes I got, I'll find out later. And I hope you'll join me for some more in the future. I hope people will consider subscribing to the channel if you're here. If you don't, that's okay. I'm just glad you wanted to watch the video. So thanks very much again for being here, and we'll be back for more in the future.